So we're all trying to make sense of this new AI age, right? We're looking for a guide. But what if I told you the best guide wasn't some coder or a data scientist, but a philosopher from the 20th century who, it turns out, basically drew the map for this moment decades ago? Let's get into it. Which thinker from the past really has the most to say about our future? Well, the answer is probably not who you think. That's right, Reid Hoffman, the guy who co-founded LinkedIn, points straight to Ludwig Wittgenstein. He basically says that if you really want to understand and build with large language models, you first have to get a grip on Wittgenstein's ideas about how language actually works. So what on earth did he mean? To get it, you've got to look at Wittgenstein's life's work, which is famous for one of the most incredible intellectual U-turns in history. He didn't just have one great idea. He had two, and the second one completely demolished the first. The difference is just, wow. The young Wittgenstein saw language as this perfect, logical mirror, a picture of reality. A sentence was only meaningful if it corresponded one-to-one with a fact. But later on, he had this massive change of heart. He realized language isn't a rigid picture at all. It's more like a flexible toolkit. Its meaning comes from how it's used in a very specific situation. And this led him to this brilliant concept of language games. Think about it. The word test. To a software engineer, that means one thing. To a doctor, something totally different. To a student, something else entirely. Each context has its own set of rules, its own game. You can't possibly understand the words if you don't first understand the game that's being played. And that brings us to the absolute core idea we need to take from all this, the foundation for everything that's about to follow. Before you can say your lines, or, write a prompt for an AI, you have to set the stage. Context is everything. Okay, so how does this philosophy from 100 years ago become a practical, hands-on engineering discipline? Well, it happens when you translate these big ideas into three concrete pillars for building systems today. The first pillar comes straight from his later work, meaning is use. It sounds simple, but the implications are massive. It means the whole quest for a perfect prompt that works everywhere is a total fantasy. The exact same prompt will give you brilliant results in one context and complete nonsense in another. So, to put this into practice, a method called the particle gate was created. Think of it like a mandatory pre-flight checklist. Before any prompt gets delivered, it forces the team to answer these questions. What room are we in? What's the time window? Who has the authority here? And only after a dedicated person, the setter, confirms that the stage is properly set, only then is the prompt allowed to be delivered. Now, the second pillar. This one actually comes from Wittgenstein's early work. The idea that language doesn't just describe our world, it actually defines the limits of it. The words we choose literally create the boundaries of what's even possible. This insight leads to a really strict discipline. You have to press all those bright, shiny, but vague words like synergy or innovation back into heavy sentences. Every single goal or command has to be rephrased to answer these 6 questions. This forces absolute clarity and turns a fuzzy slogan into a real, verifiable instruction for both people and for AI. And this super disciplined approach to language, it's not just a guideline for writing better emails, it's a core engineering principle. It's the foundation for actual software tools like ClauseNet and FlowKit. These are designed to take those structured sentences and turn them into workflows that can actually be executed. It's turning language into a literal engine. The third and final pillar is built on Wittgenstein's famous beetle in a box argument. He said, imagine everyone has a box they call a beetle, but nobody can ever look inside anyone else's box. Well, then the word beetle is meaningless, right? Meaning has to be public and verifiable, not based on some private internal feeling. So what that means for us is we have to completely eliminate this private language from our systems. We have to replace subjective statements like, I feel like it's working, with objective, publicly verifiable ones like, the data shows it is working. The whole point is to move from relying on individual feelings to relying on shared evidence. In this system, success isn't a feeling. It's defined by 4 non-negotiable objective metrics. Is this system available? Are users waiting too long? What's the cost? And how quickly are we fixing problems? These aren't just goals. They are the rigid, public definition of what working actually means. So after taking all this deep philosophy and turning it into an engineering method, what does it all mean for you? Well, it can be boiled down into a new toolkit with 3 simple but really powerful rules. It really is that simple. It comes down to just 3 core rules. They're easy to remember, but honestly, they have the power to fundamentally change how you build things and work with AI. Okay, here they are. First, force clarity. Press those vague, bright ideas into that heavy, verifiable sentence structure. Second, always set the context, the stage, before you even worry about the prompt or the lines. And finally, stop trusting feelings. Trust the 4 lines. Trust the metrics. Ultimately, what this all represents is a fundamental shift in how we think. The challenge isn't just about crafting the perfect isolated sentence. That's prompt engineering. The real work is in designing the entire environment, the whole system that makes sure the right action happens reliably. That is context engineering. And that leaves us with one final question to think about in our own work. As you're building and using these incredibly powerful new tools, you have to ask yourself, are you focused on designing a robust stage where the right performance is almost inevitable? Or are you just trying to write better lines and hoping for the best?